round 7 of the historic Formula Ford Championship. Which comes from Cadwell Park. A double header on the tight and twisty circuit, and it was quite right. It was Richard Mitchell that was quickest. So he'll start from pole position with series returnee Mark Bartel alongside James Hadfield. Starts third, another returning this season, and then season regular James Buckton will start fourth. Simon Toyne and Will Nuttall on row 3, and then Jonathan Baines and Glenn Eaglin sit on row 4. Alex Meek, Alistair Littlewood complete the top 10 with Nick Pancini and Perty Kaviri on row 7. Danny Stansel is next up with Brian Morris alongside, then Kevin Stansel, James Lovett, Rob Smith, Andrew Wiggins, Roland Svensson, Philip Walker, John Slack, Chris Helliwell, Gary McVeigh, Roy Schwerju, Michael Wales and Stuart Dix into the 26 car field. That's a capacity for single seaters here at Cadwell Park. 29 cars took to qualify, but obviously they couldn't all start, so we've got a few reserves, and we go racing, and Richard Mitchell makes a very good start for the 20-minute encounter. It's not such a good start from Bartel, a good start from Buckton. He's going past Hadfield as they go under the bridge into Coppice Corner. The flat left-hander it will be in racing conditions. And we can ride on board with Alex Meek, who passes Jonathan Baines up into Charlie's, but it'll be on the park straight. It will be Mitchell that leads Bartel, and then it should be Hadfield, not in third anymore because Buckton beat him off the line. You can see this great view of this undulating circuit and all these Formula Fords flat out around it. It was a great sight. They're going, if we dip down the hill, you can see all the cars flowing behind Meek, who's turning his way through Chris Curve at the moment. And then they go through the gooseneck, the right-left flick, and plummeting downhill into Mansfield. Meek having to defend there. There's not a huge amount of overtaking opportunities on this circuit. And into the mountain chicane. Mitchell being chased by Bartel with Buckton third. Nuttall's come up to fourth, so Hadfield down to fifth, then Toynes to sixth, a bit of a gap back to seventh, which is Eaglin. Whereas Meek, Baines and Kaviri behind. Then it's Alistair Littlewood that leads the next group of cars, and they all flow their way through. All 26 cars there, making it safely through the first lap, and the lead is already into the whole bend. Well, the cars dance through the right, left, right, then they go left, then hard on the brakes, down the hill into the hairpin. A tight right-hander, that is. And across the line have come the leaders, and into Coppice, through the flat-out left-hander, and this is Bartel really challenging Mitchell at this stage. Great side, and in a pretty tight corner, that is. You may not think that the cars can go flat out, but obviously the camber and the uphill nature up towards Charlie's does help it to be flat out. Jonathan Baines is going to repass Alex Meek up the park straight, Meek giving him the space to do so. So that's the change into park corner. Baines up a position. Roland Svensson started perhaps a bit further back than what he would have liked. He's got this great train of cars ahead of him. So he's heading down towards the gooseneck at the moment. See the track then plummets downhill towards Mansfield. We're going up on the inside of John Slack. Svensson gains the position. Mitchell and Bartel pulling away from James Buckton in third. Then Will Nuttall's got Hadfield, Toyne and Eaglin not far behind at all. You can see Baines ahead of Meek now, and they've got Kaviri behind the pair of them. Then Littlewood leads the next gaggle of about 6 cars. And then it's Philip Walker leading the next train, which I think runs all the way to the back of the field, as Helliwell down the inside of Smith. And Svensson's going to go past Smith also. That's into Barn Corner, the final corner of the lap. Already in this early stage is Richard Mitchell doing a 1:35. As now Svensson goes down the inside of Helliwell. So he's gained 3 positions in the last half a lap. Next up is Philip Walker onto the park straight. It's not particularly straight, to be honest, is it? Because you've got this left kink as they head up towards Park Corner, and Svensson's down the inside here. He's going to gain yet another position, but then there's a big gap to the next car. Into the chicane at the mountain bottom comes Mitchell and Bartel, and they go over the top of the mountain where the cars are briefly airborne. The revs go sky high as well as they head over the top there. Littlewood has now closed up with Meek, who's been passed by Kaviri. So all change there. Spencer's made a small gap to Walker. Great batting all the way through the field, even around this tight and twisty circuit. Right on board with Danny Stanzel through the Hall Bends. Great part of the circuit, especially to spectate from. And he's chasing the Titan of Nick Pancini as they complete yet another lap of this 20-minute race. It's Mitchell that leads. So into Charlie's for Stanzel now. And a very sideway Pancini. Stanzel gets it a bit crossed up as well. And now he's in the slipstream, he's got the better run. So the Alden goes down the inside of the Titan as they head up towards Park Corner. And through he goes. Stanzel gains a position. Into the mountain for the leaders, Mitchell and Bartel. Over the top they go. Next Buckton, Nuttall, Hadfield and Toynton just started to lose ground to those cars ahead of him. Kaviri, Meek, Littlewood and Stanzel. Stanzel gets extraordinarily sideways as he climbs the hill. Keeps it all together though. There's Buckton with Nuttall and Hadfield, a great trio battle for third position. Glenn Eaglin being chased by John O'Baines. Baines is catching. Stanzel there ahead of Pancini. And then it's Kevin Stanzel and Brian Morris and James Lovett. And there's a gap back to Roland Svensson, who leads Philip Walker, Rob Smith and John Slack as they all throw their way through the Hall Bends. And a spin! That's Chris Helliwell goes for a rotation. That all looked slightly bizarre because obviously couldn't see the lead up to that. He will be able to rejoin, but you have to wonder if he will continue because that didn't look right. And Mitchell locks up, he goes out wide into the mountain, but Max Bartel spins. Bartel has spun, so he's lost his second position. Buckton will claim that. Now Bartel's got to scramble up the hill on the grass. He's lucky it's been dry recently because that can be difficult at times. But he did it, but he's only going to be joining something like 6th position. Big mistake then from Bartel. He will be kicking himself. He was chasing Mitchell well all the way up to that point. There's Philip Walker just ahead of Rob Smith. John Slack just started to lose touch with them now. Take another look then. You see Mitchell got it all crossed up into the mountain, and then Bartel went right round and just about got it back off the circuit before the battle of second came into shot. John Slack then heading down towards Park Corner. The car gets all crossed up under brake and he spins, and he's going to drop probably right to the back of the field. Gets it back going though, so he will rejoin. Someone who hasn't continued though is Chris Helliwell. He's out the race. There's Richard Mitchell through Hall Bends with this big lead now from James Buckton. He gets it all crossed up, and then Will Nuttall and James Hadfield. Those three cars now are as close as they ever have been. Remember, Hadfield qualified ahead of the pair of cars ahead of him, so he'll be wanting to see if he can find a way through. Littlewood, Stanzel and Pansini having a good tussle amongst themselves. And this large gap that has developed back to Roland Svensson, who hasn't been able to pull away, and there he sideways Rob Smith there through the first part of Hall Bends. He gathered it all back together though. Wales and Dix having a good tussle as well. That's for something like 24th position. Over the mountain for Mitchell, is bouncing over the top of it. There's Buckton. Hadfield up to third. Hadfield's got ahead of Will Nuttall. So up to third position then for James Hadfield, the professional ice hockey player. Son of ace historic para racer Simon Hadfield. It's James. James going well though in his Titan. He was also on the podium at Silverstone last month. There goes Svensson over at the hill, and somebody's smoking badly. That could well have been Mike Wales. Or was it Rob Smith was potentially who it could have been actually. Either way, it looks like there's some fluid down on the race circuit. So that's going to make it even more challenging if it wasn't already. Philip Walker down the start and finish line. And into Coppice Corner chasing Roland Svensson. There's Mitchell hitting the slippery surface now, getting it all crossed up. Then it's Buckton, Hadfield, Nuttall, and Simon Toyne hasn't been able to keep up with that battle. And there's Max Bartel. He covering it, clobbers the curb. Then Glenn Eagle and John O'Baines continue their battle for what is 7th place. Then Kaviri and Meek contest 9th. Then Littlewood, Stanzel and Pansini behind. Then Kevin Stanzel leads Brian Morris, James Lovett and Andrew Wiggins in that quartet of cars. Once more into Hall Bends goes Danny Stanzel. It's a bit sideways. I think that's where there's some fluid down. So he just takes it slightly easy through the hairpin. You can see the slippery surface flags are out to warn the drivers that there may be fluid on the race circuit. I think Stanzel just backed out of it because of that, and that's allowed the car ahead to get away. He's trying to avoid the fluid there, and Nick Pansini makes the most of it, goes down the inside of him into Coppice Corner and goes ahead. He gets it all crossed up though, does Pansini. And the Cadwell Park circuit not just demand all the drivers but also on the onboard cameras. Richard Mitchell's there gone for a Burton, as has Roland Svensson's. So that's 2 more pictures we won't be seeing for the rest of the race. John O'Baines, he's just holding on well, and he's challenging Glenn Eagle into Coppice Corner to the Lotus ahead of the Merlin. Lotus 61 for Eagle, and he returned to racing last time out since Neston 2 weeks ago. He's a former racer in Formula Fords, but at a modern level. Also British GT with his son Dan. But John O'Baines is going ahead of him down the inside into Park Corner. It was a Marcos that Eagle raced in British GT. Much less power in Formula Fords, but just as much fun. There's Mitchell then, flinging it through Hall Bends. He won last time out, not last time out, he won last month at Silverstone due to a penalty for Robert Wainwright, who wasn't able to get in at this meeting due to the number of entries. He was a reserve, so he decided to pull out. So there's Baines, head of Eaglin, and Perty Kaveri going after them now. He's managed to get away from Alex Meek. And Littlewood with Pansini, Stanzel, Morris, and then Wiggins ahead of Lovett now. So that's a change. And then this large margin back to the next car, which is Roland Svensson. He will eventually arrive at Hall Bends and does now, ahead of Philip Walker. Walker's been keeping him honest, and Rob Smith's car has cried enough. I think that is now seriously smoking. He'll have to pull out, which I think will bring us down to 24 cars left in the motor race. No, it'll actually be 23 because Michael Wales has also retired. So down to 23 cars, still a good number around the circuit. Everyone's kept it on the tarmac, or at least out the barriers. John Slack is chasing Gary McVie now for what will be 22nd place. Down towards Coppice Corner. If there was a lift there from Slack, it was ever so slight lift. I don't think there was any though. And into Charlie's 2 for Slack at the moment. He's really getting onto the back of Gary McVie. He's now in the slipstream of him, heading down towards the park corner. McVie gives him room, and Slack will go through. So that's one of the many Lola T200s gaining a position. Richard Mitchell through the mountain chicane. This large margin he's got over now. James Hadfield up to second. He's got ahead of Buckton and quite swiftly pulled away from him and Will Nuttall. So Hadfield going well. Hadfield moving into second then on lap 9. 6 seconds behind Richard Mitchell. Keep an eye on that margin. Baines has really pulled away from Eaglin. But the pace Bartel's going, you won't be able to catch it. Bartel was the driver who was challenging Mitchell early on before his spin. Kevin Stanzel turns in his way through Hall Bends, trying to get onto terms with his son Danny. Danny runs the Alden, while Kevin is in the Merlin. The most popular car in this championship is the Merlin. I think Stanzel just having to wipe his visor, all this oil that's been going down, or whatever fluid it is, getting on his visor. Mitchell flies over the top of the mountain, as does Hadfield. The unique feature of the Cadwell Park circuit is the mountain. The cars take off. Nowhere else in the UK you'll get anywhere like that.
Complete 11 laps, go on to
there goes Baines. Eaglin, who has Kaviri all over him now.
Third place is James Buckton.
As we get into the final quarter of this race.
Simon Troy for 5th place. Down to less than second.
There's Roland Svensson, who's now really starting to get away from Philip Walker. And the pair of them have got a margin over the next car. A much increased margin over Stuart Dix, who's now ahead of Roy Suerju. Remember, Dix was right at the back earlier, so he's come through nicely. And Slack McVeigh just ahead of race leader Richard Mitchell, who's now on his final lap of the race. James Hadfield, not quite enough time really, he was there to catch him when he got ahead of Buckton. Where's Will Nuttall gone? Nuttall's disappeared around the back of the circuit. That's promoted Simon Toyne and Max Bartella position, and there's Nuttall, he's down to 6th spot. So through Hall Bends the final time, Richard Mitchell's going to take the victory here from James Hadfield. Mitchell likes to flag victory, very different race to Silverstone. James Buxton's going to take third. Simon Toyne should hold on to fourth. He's been put under pressure by Max Bartel on these last couple of laps. Then Will Nuttall will take sixth after his spin on this final lap. And Jonathan Baines will take seventh, ahead of Glenn Eaglin, who's held off Perty Kaviri and Alex Meek. Then running in 11th spot is Nick Pansini. He's got ahead of Alistair Littlewood. Danny Stansel continues his run in the 13th spot. With Kevin Stanza, Brian Morris, James Lovett, Andrew Wiggins behind. Lovett back ahead of Wiggins in the closing stages. Then Ronan Svensson 18th, 19th for Philip Walker, 20th the Cooper of Stuart Dix. But he's got Roya Swerju all over him. Now wait for them to turn their way through Hall Bends and have a look at that battle for 20th position. They're just making their way down towards the Hall Bend section now. They turn their way through the turns and they will come into our shot momentarily. There they are. In fact, Dix has got a small margin to Sewurju. And then John Slack has been able to hold off Gary McVie, and there they come through in 22nd and 23rd. So there's your race winner, Richard Mitchell. It was due to backing off towards the line. A 3.8 second victory over James Hadfield. James Buxton in third, and fourth was Simon Toyne. Four different manufacturers in the top four: Merlin, Titan, Alden and Lola. And then Will Nuttall's Jamin in sixth, making five manufacturers in the top six. You can see those results on your screen now. Simon Toyne just held Max Bartel off by just under half a second. Richard Mitchell took the fast lap, an average speed of 82 miles per hour, which is pretty impressive in a 1600cc car, which is over 40 years old, around this tight, twisty and narrow Cadwell Park circuit.